Destined to win.
We gotta turn it around.
Hi, I'm Pastor Frank Santora, and I want to welcome you to Destined to Win. Have you ever tried to break a bad habit or start a new one with no success at all? Well, what if I told you that you don't need stronger willpower, you just need to literally change your mind. Every thought, every action, every reaction we have creates ruts in the brain, and it creates a track that we unconsciously follow, whether we intend to or not. I hope you'll join me today as I share with you how you can retrain your mind in our series, Mental Health Goals.
My favorite scripture, one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible, my favorite is actually Romans 8:28. But one of my other favorite scriptures is Psalm 107. Psalm 107 verse 2. Here's what it says. It says, "Let the redeemed of the Lord say so, whom he hath redeemed from the hand of the enemy," right? Now, this is not just an instruction to give God praise for your testimony, but it is also an instruction that tells us how to overcome or how to get released from the hand of the enemy. When you say so, the enemy loses his grip on your life. It's the mighty weapon, the mighty say it weapon of confession. And there is no greater illustration than how to get delivered from the hand of the enemy with confession than Jesus in the wilderness of temptation. In the wilderness of temptation, we find Jesus overcoming the enemy by what he said. And so let's look at this a little bit. First of all, a couple of just backdrop observations about the text, Matthew chapter number 4. First thing you ought to know is that all temptations fall into three categories. There aren't any more than three categories of temptation. 1 John chapter number 2, verse 16 says, "For all that is in the world," everything, this is how it can be summed up. He says, "is the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. All of that is not of the Father, but it's of this world." Those are the three categories of temptation. Anytime we are tempted, it falls into one of these three categories. The lust of the flesh, these are the base things that our flesh desires. The cravings of our flesh that are not productive. The lust of the eyes, these are the base things that our eyes are drawn to. And then the pride of life, these are the base things that feed our ego. And so those are the three categories that all temptation falls into. Every temptation, and it's no different with Jesus. When Jesus was tempted by the devil tempted him in these three areas. Turn these stones into bread. That's the lust of the flesh, tempting him to break his fast, right? Number 2, showed him all the kingdoms of the world. That's the lust of the eyes. Then told him that he would give him all of these things if he would bow down and worship him. He was appealing to his ego. Here, you can have all this. You can have this power. You can have this prestige, but you have to do it the wrong way. The lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life. Incidentally, the same three temptations he ran on Adam and Eve. Same three if you go back into the garden. Why? Because he's a one-trick pony. Remember we said the devil's not creative, he's just repetitive. He's running the same game on everybody over and over and over again. This is why we ought not to look at one another weird or like there's something wrong with one another when somebody falls into temptation, because it's the same stuff that we fell into because the devil's playing the same tricks on us over and over again, right? Matter of fact, the Bible says that if you're spiritual and you see somebody fall into temptation, what do? You restore such a one. How? Considering your own self. Why? Because you know the devil's ran the same exact temptations on you because he's not creative, he is repetitive. And so here is Jesus, and he's tempted with these three things, but here's what the devil doesn't know. He's not dealing with the first man and the first woman. He's not dealing with a flawed man and a flawed woman. He's dealing with Jesus, and Jesus didn't succumb, but Jesus overcame, and in this story, he teaches us how we can overcome as well. So the first thing you need to know, every temptation falls into one of these three categories. Second thing you need to know, every temptation or behind every temptation is a mind manipulation. Behind every single temptation is a mind manipulation. Let me give you a few that he tries to run on Jesus. Turn these stones into bread. What's the mind manipulation behind that? Well, he's trying to get Jesus to use his power of God to make it through this season, his power as God to make it through this season of temptation. He was trying to get Jesus to make Wonder Bread. That's funny right there. Matter of fact, he runs that same thing on me. He tries to get me to eat Wonder Bread, you know, the whole carb thing and everything like that. But in Jesus' case, he was trying to get him to eat or make Wonder Bread. He was trying to get Jesus to use his powers as God to overcome the temptation. You might say, well, what's the mind manipulation behind that? Well, the reason why Jesus was led of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil, because the Spirit of God does not lead us into temptation. Matter of fact, we are to pray in the Lord's Prayer, lead us not into temptation. So God doesn't do what he asks us to pray against, because God's not working against himself. God doesn't make you sick and then heal you. God doesn't make you broke and then prosper you. God doesn't make you sad and then make you happy. God's not working against himself. The devil does all of the things that so many people blame on God, right? But Jesus was indeed led of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted and tried. Why? He had to. He had to be tempted and tried at every point and remain sinless in order for him to qualify as a proper substitute on the cross. Listen to me. In other words, he had to be a sinless man who was able to withstand temptation as a human man in order to become a substitute for man. Did you get it? Thank you, Mary. I appreciate that. He had to. He had to do it. He couldn't use his power as God. And so what the devil was trying to do was disqualify him from becoming the sinless, spotless sacrifice on the cross so that you and I would remain stuck in our sin. And so there was a mind manipulation behind the temptation. And that's why when Jesus responded to him, verse number 4, what did he say? Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. Why did he say man? Why didn't he say I shall not? Because he understood the scheme that Satan was trying to employ. He was trying to disqualify him based on a mind manipulation. Anytime there is a temptation, the enemy is trying to disqualify you for something that God has for you through a mind manipulation. Second thing he tries to do to Jesus is disqualify him as Savior based on a violation of prophecy. Because Jesus had to fulfill not just 99.9% of all prophecies in order to be God, because he's not a 99.9% God. He's 100% God. He has no flaw in him, no speck of something that is not good in him. And so he was trying to disqualify him as God. How so? Well, listen to the mind manipulation. He says, throw yourself off of this pinnacle. Why? Because, and he quotes Scripture. By the way, the devil knows Scripture. This is why it's so important for you to know Scripture. Because some of y'all think that people on TV know Scripture. And so you hear these jokers in the news, and they say things, and even the Bible, and you don't know any better because you don't know the Word. So you need to make sure you know it more on that next week. He says, throw yourself down. It is written, he quotes Psalm 91. He will give his angels charge over you. In their hands they shall bear you up, lest you dash your foot against the stone. Now, what mind game is behind that temptation? Well, there were no doubt crowds of people that were gathered around the temple below. This was 450 feet above the temple. And the devil was not trying to trick Jesus into jumping to his death. That wasn't his MO. He was trying to trick Jesus into jumping so God would save him. Midair. Why? Because he wanted all of the people to see Jesus airwalk. And if they saw Jesus airwalk, he would have classified them with the other false prophets of his day, some of which claimed they could fly. And so what he was trying to do is he was trying to put him in the same category as all of these other people. And if Jesus jumped off, he would have disqualified him on the basis of lumping him with all of these other prophets. And so he was trying to manipulate his mind behind. Also, the people would have accepted him more than likely as the Messiah if he airwalked, and then he would have been disqualified on the prophecy that says his people would reject him. And so the devil was trying to manipulate the mind by tempting him with something that didn't look like it really was what it was. And that's always what the enemy does. He tempts us with what looks good, but behind it is a mind manipulation. Now here's the thing that you have to realize. Never bow to the devil's temptations, otherwise you lose out on a better blessing. Never bow to the devil's temptations, otherwise you lose out on a better blessing. The one who refused to turn the stones into bread, read the rest of the story, is given food by the angels. That's better. The one who refused to throw himself off the temple to get angelic help after he resisted, he is served by those angels. They come and minister to him. That's better. And the one who refused to take the shortcut to gain the kingdoms of this world is now declared the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. That's better. Listen to me. Don't ever bow. Your Father has got a greater blessing for you. Remember, the point of our lives is not gratification. The point of our lives is godliness, and godliness produces great gain. You get blessed better if you do it God's way than if you cut a corner to get it instantly and gratify your flesh. And so as we come to the story, we see that Satan is manipulating Jesus' mind. The same thing that he does with us, because he knows wherever the mind goes, the life goes. If you get your mind to believe something or adopt something, then your life will follow that. So how does Jesus use the mighty say-it weapon of confession to win the battle and to dig a trench of truth in his mind? First thing that I want you to do whenever the enemy is scheming and you recognize the mind manipulation, talk back. I want you to talk back. Did you notice in a very real sense, this is a war of words between Jesus and the devil? The devil says, if you are the Son of God, turn these stones into bread. Jesus talks back. It's written, man shall not live by bread alone, blah, 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 right? Satan then says, if you are the Son of God, throw yourself off of this high pinnacle, for it is written, blah, 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 blah. And what does Jesus say? Jesus said, you should not put the Lord your God to a foolish test. Satan then says, all these kingdoms will I give you if you bow down and worship me. Jesus talks back. He says, it is written, you shall not worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you worship. What is Jesus doing in this war of words? Jesus will not allow the enemy to have the last word. Jesus will not allow the enemy to say something without responding to it. Now, this is not good practice in marriage. This is not good practice for kids and their parents. This is not good practice for an employee and their boss. But this is absolutely essential practice. Talk back when the enemy is talking trash to your mind, because the end result is for him to gain space in your head. And one of the ways that you stop him from gaining space in your head and you put a right groove in your brain is you talk back. And that's why Jesus did it.
Is your life going in the direction that you want it to? For your career, for your finances, and for your relationships? Did you know that the thoughts you think influence your direction more than anything else? That is why your mind is being targeted by the enemy. Pastor Frank Santora sounds the alarm in an effort to help you stay woke to the strategies the enemy uses to keep you from renewing your mind. Using recent discoveries in epigenetics and solid biblical teaching, he reveals how you can change the course of your life by changing your mind in his latest ebook, Stay Woke, the Keto Diet for Your Mind. In it, he will show you where your spiritual diet may have gone off track and show you how to feed your mind the right diet in order to enjoy spiritual fitness. Just visit www.franksantora.cc to download your free copy today and prepare to be changed. This is not a diet book, rather a guide to total life change by getting your thinking on track.
The mood of your mind is determined by the words of your mouth. What I mean by mood: anxious, worry, depression. The mood of your mind is determined by the words of your mouth. The conversation that is going on in your head is often influenced by the words that are coming out of your mouth. They're all linked together. So whatever words either come out of your mouth or even somebody else's mouth makes an impact on your mind. Incidentally, this is why the Bible says husbands should wash their wives with the water of the word. Do you know why? Because women are usually more sensitive to words than men. They have a greater impact. Men, we're used to talking trash. We used to say, I don't give, whatever. But women hold on to that stuff. Because God knows what's happening is when we're not washing our wives with the word, with the truth of the word of God, what's happening is their mind is being assaulted over and over. Make sure when it comes to the enemy talking to you, you get the last word. Now let me go a little bit deeper. It's not just the mood of your mind, but the structure and functioning of your brain that is linked to the words of your mouth. It's called Neurolinguistics. It's a study of how the mouth impacts our mind and therefore the structure of our brain and life existence. Now I'm going to read you an excerpt from a scientific book. Stay with me. In their book, Words Can Change Your Brain, Andrew Newberg and Robert Waldman write, a single word has the power to influence the expression of genes that regulate physical and emotional stress. Positive words such as peace and love, and for us, we're not interested in, hey, peace, everybody, love, everybody. The positive words for us are the words of truth, right? The words of the Bible. Positive words such as peace and love can alter the expression of genes, strengthening areas of our frontal lobes and promoting the brain's cognitive function. They propel the motivation centers of the brain into action and build resiliency. Positive words, words of truth, prefer us into action. That's why it's meditation, confession, action, right? If you meditate on the right thing and say the right thing, you'll do the right thing. If you meditate on the wrong thing and say the wrong thing, you'll do the wrong thing. And so God has a very set sequence for how you and I are to operate. You've all heard the story of the little engine that could. Right? He couldn't until he said, I think I can, 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 and then he did. The woman with the issue of blood, what did she do? If I can only touch the hem of his garment, I shall be made well. If I can only touch the hem of his garment, I shall be made well. Over and over, she said it till she eventually did it. Exactly because of what they're telling us here, neurolinguistics. Conversely, hostile language can disrupt specific genes that play a key part in the production of neurochemicals that protect us from stress. Hostile language creates stress in our lives, right? Then it says, a single negative word can increase the activity in our amygdala, the fear center of the brain. This releases dozens of stress-producing hormones and neurotransmitters, which in turn interrupt our brain's functioning. This is especially true in regard to logic, reasoning, and language. Angry words send alarm messages through the brain, and they partially shut down the logic and reasoning centers located in the frontal lobes. Let me make it plain. What does a kind word do? It turns away wrath. Isn't that what the scripture says? That's exactly what they're saying. Saying if you have an angry word or a hostile word, what it does is it gets everything on the inside of you. Your brain starts going on tilt. And that's why if you really want to resolve something, you don't go tit for tat. The worst thing you can do in your relationship with your spouse is they say something nasty, you say something nasty back. Because all that's happening is your brains are firing. They're going, and logic is going out the window. Have you ever noticed how illogical people get when they're angry? And then they calm down. And they're like, yeah, my bad. Sorry, I shouldn't have did that. Why? Because their logic is back where it needs to be. And so this is what God is teaching us. According to these authors, using the right words can transform our reality. By holding positive and optimistic words in your mind, the word of truth, the Bible. You stimulate frontal lobe activity. This area includes specific language centers that connect directly to the motor cortex responsible for moving you into action. The longer you concentrate on positive words, the more you begin to affect other areas of the brain. Functions in the parietal lobe start to change, which changes your perception of yourself and the people you interact with, and a positive view of yourself will bias you towards seeing the good in others, whereas a negative self-image will incline you towards suspicion and doubt. So in other words, when somebody talks bad about somebody else, it is completely a reflection of how they feel about themselves. Uh-oh. When somebody gossips about somebody, when somebody is suspicious of people all the time, it is a complete reflection of how they feel about themselves. When somebody can't see the good in somebody else and can only see the bad in somebody else, it is a reflection of how they feel about themselves. So don't take it so personally. Put your hand on their shoulder and say, can I pray for you? I know you're feeling bad about you. You're just using me to get your words out. Over time, the structure of the thalamus will also change in response to your conscious words, thoughts, and feelings. And that changes affect the way in which you perceive reality. Let me summarize. The right words affect our brain's proper cognitive functioning. The wrong words interrupt the brain from functioning right, especially in regard to logic, reasoning, and language. The right words switch on our brains, and the wrong words switch off our brains. Words can regulate the emotional and physical stress centers in our brains. Words affect how we perceive reality. Words have a profound effect on the way in which our brains are shaped and operate, and therefore the experiences that we have. Words affect us on a genetic level, turning the expression of genes on and off for our benefit or for our harm, depending upon the words that are spoken. Words do all that, which is why God said, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they shall love it. They that love it shall eat the fruit thereof, because it is affecting you at a neurological level. It is literally producing the life that you are experiencing, because your brain is pumping out messages to the rest of you for how you should act and how you should perceive things. And so God comes along and he says this. He says, whenever the enemy speaks to you in an untruth way, whenever you have stuff going off in your mind that you know is inconsistent with the Word of God, you must talk back. You have to correct the voice that has come into your head. Otherwise, your mind is at risk. This is why God is so emphatic about you'll have what you say. You'll have what it's deeper than just magic. It's not hocus pocus. It's not blab it and grab it. God is literally telling us, but God is not necessarily explaining everything behind it, because, by the way, God owes us no explanation. It's great when you do know, but it's even better when you just obey. Isn't that great? Imagine, who likes to have to explain everything? I like watching all these presidential movies and stuff like that, and everybody gives their feedback and so on and so forth, and that's all cool. But there are times when the president's got 10 people around and says, you do this, 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 and it's urgent. What if everybody says, can you tell me why? No, just do it. Right? We have to learn that when it comes to God speaking to us, he's smart. He knows what he's talking about. Do what he says.
So your mind matters more than you thought, right? In order to change your life, you have to change your mind. But can only be accomplished when you use God's mighty weapons. If you'd like some additional encouragement, I've not only prepared some audio lessons, but a practical study guide as well to aid you in your journey to accomplishing your mental health goals. Check this out.
Your mind matters more than you think. If you have ever tried to break bad habits, tried to establish better relationships, or tried to follow through on resolutions without success, then there is good news for you. It's not a matter of increasing your willpower, it's a matter of changing your mind. In his Mental Health Goals Volume 1 study guide set, Pastor Frank Santora explores the mighty weapons God has given us to eliminate bad habits and repeal the cycles that keep defeating us. This first volume not only includes 3 powerful digital audio lessons on a USB drive, but also a companion study guide booklet with fill-in notes and prompts for your personal study. This first volume is available alone for your gift of $20 to the ministry. But if you would like to take the next step to replace the old habits and thoughts with new ones, Volume 2 introduces the mighty renewing weapons in 4 additional lessons that reinforce that what you see in your mind and say with your mouth, you will do with your life. For your gift of $40 to the ministry, you will receive both volumes 1 and 2 for a total of 7 digital lessons and 2 companion study guide booklets to help you achieve your mental health goals. Just visit franksantora.cc to order today.
Focusing on our mental health is not a new idea. God has already laid out how we can deal with these struggles right in His Word. So be encouraged. You do have the ability to change your mind and rewire your brain to form beneficial habits, but only when you rely on God's wisdom and strength. And that's all possible because with Jesus, you're destined to win.
Holy, I stand before you at your throne. Freely I surrender all I am. Here I found a fullness I've never known, and only you can satisfy my soul. You never leave me empty, never leave me dry. Surrounded by your presence, God, you satisfy. You're all I've ever longed for, all I'll ever need. Here I see your goodness, you're everything to me.
If you're in the New York City or Connecticut area, we invite you to visit us at one of our locations or join us online every Sunday at faithchurch.cc/live. On behalf of Pastor Frank and from all of us at Faith Church, God bless you, we love you, and we'll see you next week.